If you're an artist who wants to optimize their business, but you're struggling to grow your brand, keep watching. I'm making this video because I just watched the king of podcasts give the worst advice you could possibly give. And it's terrible advice because people aren't going to think it's terrible advice. He clearly didn't think it was terrible advice. I'm not talking about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan gets on his podcast and just talks about Stanley Kubrick movies and has no idea what he's talking about, and it drives me crazy. I'm happy for Joe Rogan, but dude, quit saying stuff that you don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm talking about Chris Williamson. He's got a great YouTube channel. He has excellent guests on. He knows how to ask questions. He knows how to shut his mouth and let people answer. Mad respect and love for Chris Williamson. But dude, you literally gave some of the worst life advice you could give for someone who's trying to optimize their business. And what's even funnier about this, and why I just feel so passionate about it on top of everything else, is he said this in front of Alex Hormozi. He said this to Alex Hormozi. And you better believe I was like, bro, Hormozi's about to tell him the truth. And of course Hormozi did.
What are some of the other behaviors that fit in that category, do you think?
The mega bang behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Friend gave me one thing. Buying a dog was his. So externalizing your sense of self, having something which gives you unconditional love. Your step count has just quadrupled at least. There is a sort of degree of responsibility. It's sort of early onset furry child rearing that makes you a better parent in future. Just downstream from this one decision.
My team's smiling because they know that there's probably like
essentially infinite number of good things happen.
Get a dog?
Yeah.
Wow. Why don't you want them to get a dog?
So I think that getting a dog for the reasons that you outlined makes sense for living life satisfaction. Like if you don't walk, walking a dog is a good thing. If I already walk, I don't get that benefit. If I have interpersonal relationships and an outside version of awareness of self, then I don't necessarily get the benefit. But there are significant costs to having a dog, which for me, from a making money perspective, because that is the game that I like to play, it costs a lot. Dogs cost a tremendous amount. And so they cost you not being able to go to events. They cost you having to break up in the middle of the day to go home to let the dog out. They cost actual money. The amount of total time that you spend walking the dog, if you already work out, is most of the time just wasted. Now you could say, hey, I'm listening to a podcast, fine. But it will interrupt deep work for the most part. And so so to give you context on how extreme I am about this, Layla bought a dog, and then I got her to give it away.
He's saying that
What sort of dog was it?
a dog is not going to let... What he's saying is a dog is not going to make your life better unless you're a loser. That's what he's saying. How are you going to travel the world? How are you going to seize opportunities when they fall in your lap? I hope you have a support system, but unless you have someone who can come and hang out with your dog and house sit, or you're going to pack your dog up and let it live with someone else or board it, which is frankly traumatizing and not fair to the pet. And that's what upsets me, is people get pets and the poor thing just sits at home alone all day and doesn't have a life. But I always tell people, especially folks in their 20s, don't get the dog. And if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even, and you're trying to restart your life, or you're running a business, you're doing big things that take time and mental bandwidth and focus, the dog's not going to help. And if your life is so screwed up that you need to buy a mammal so you can have unconditional love, you need to figure out what's going on with you to where you can't have healthy relationships with people and experience love. Focus on you. Focus on optimizing your life. Don't make a New Year's resolution. Don't do it. Sit down and say, these are the things I'm taking out of my life for New Year's. Don't add things to your life. Don't get the gym membership for New Year's. Remove DiGiorno pizza. And before you dismiss my advice because I'm some guy who doesn't like dogs and doesn't know how awesome it is to have a dog. She's like, you ain't gonna get me on camera.